I think there's a number of interesting things going on in the financial services space. And I think it's probably worthwhile to start with the U.S. because the U.S. does continue to have the strongest financial institutions. I think you do continue to see very diverse financial institutions in the United States, whether it comes from the banking front, the insurance front, or the asset management front. I think you have a lot of financial institutions that are looking ways to grow, to become more efficient with cost structure, to deal with increasingly complex and costly compliance, which is really something that's very heavy on their radar screen. I think asset management is going to be mixed. I don't think there's a clear path of a number of sellers. I think if there were interested sellers, there clearly are interested buyers, existing players or private equity. Clearly processes we've seen the last year or two. Banking is probably the one real wild card. I think the U.S. banks are continuing to focus on regulatory issues, big and continuing investment in compliance. I think in Europe you have a couple of things. I think people are still wrestling with Solvency II, right? I think there's still things being evaluated at the European Union level, where they're trying to figure out how do we really kind of bring a little bit of stability to the various economies. The challenge there is that a number of financial institutions still have very unhealthy balance sheets. So the real activity there has been trying to package assets, the loans, to figure out a way, sort of maybe a good bank, bad bank, or just actually sell loans. You haven't seen a lot of that. You've seen a lot of private equity, perhaps, and other investors sort of say, "Okay, let's take a look at the loan portfolio," but you haven't really seen meaningful transactions happen there. So I think that the private equity really is a very thoughtful buyer. They really do a very thorough evaluation of the property, the products, capital expenses. There's really quite a lot they look at, and then I think they go to the seller and say, "Listen, we really do have a plan. Here's the way we thought about making this acquisition." And there's a lot of private equity interested in financial services today. I would say it's probably 2 to 3 times what we saw 3 years ago. Certainly 5 years ago, but maybe even as recently as 3 years ago. And some that are really good at it, some that are very experienced, some that really understand it, some that are learning quickly. But I think they're a meaningful player in the space, and I think they'll continue to be.